A federal judge is once again pushing back on the Trump administration's immigration policy. U.S. District Judge Edward Chen ordered a halt on a plan to end an immigration program that lets hundreds of thousands of immigrants live and work in the U.S. The administration wants to end the temporary protected status for people from Sudan, Nicaragua, Haiti, and El Salvador. This is protection given to immigrants from countries ravaged by natural disaster or wars. In Judge Chen's decision, he says, there was evidence that President Trump harbors an animus against non-white, non-European aliens, which influenced his decision to end TPS. A DOJ spokesperson said the ruling usurps the role of the executive branch in our constitutional order. For more on this and other topics of the day, we go to our political panel, attorney and former Georgia State Representative Ladawn Jones and conservative commentator Steve Malzberg. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Great. Ladawn, the judge has ruled there is no immediate harm to the federal government if its decision to end TPS is halted. But what's the political implications of this?
Well, we know that the TPS every year have been a political football. Every time there's a new president, there's a decision whether or not they're going to allow people from these countries to stay or send them home. But right now, we know that President Trump has came in with a promise during his campaign. We know that he's coming off of the back of the immigrant children being in detention centers, and you just see him continuing to push the backs of the people who support him, meaning that he doesn't care how it's going to affect these 400,000 people to just end this immediately. He's actually going to lift him up politically because that's what his voters want.
Well, that's it, Steve. Is this immigration and pictures of kids in cages, as we saw supposedly on the border, does that actually help President Trump and his administration?
No, I don't think that helps. I think this program, I don't know what everybody doesn't understand about the word temporary, which is the first word in the name of the program. This was instituted in 1990. It calls for regular reevaluation of the situation in the countries that you mentioned. And people who came here in 1990 or 1995, when there's no longer an armed conflict or a natural disaster in their country, they go home. That's the program. And an Obama-appointed judge saying that basically Trump is a racist and that's why he wants these people out. You know what? The Ninth Circuit said that about the travel ban, and when it got to the Supreme Court, they said, no way, that doesn't fly. The president has a right to do this, and the president has a right to do this, ending this program and kicking these people out because their countries no longer have the poor conditions that drove them here in the first place.
Well, let's make this bigger than just necessarily talking about one subject like immigration. Let's look at this as the separation of branches. Is this, Steve, the judicial branch overstepping the executive?
Absolutely. I mean, this program, the executive branch, the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, it was originally the Immigration Department transferred to the Homeland Security when they broke up into departments. They have jurisdiction over this. This is an activist judge who is overstepping, and I believe as this progresses through the courts, if it gets to the Supreme Court again, and it might take that, they will say the executive branch has the right to throw these people out if the conditions in their countries have changed.
Well, Ladawn, that's a question for you right now. Is this, I mean, we've seen this happen in the past where the judicial branch comes in and rules something that does affect an order from the executive branch. But is this going to set a precedent going forward that will be damaging to both parties depending on who's actually in power?
No, it's not setting a precedent. It's actually following our Constitution and the way that our founders wanted us. They wanted us to have a check and balance system, and they specifically noted that that check and balance system is extremely important with presidential powers. In Congress, we have the different parties and the numbers of representatives from different states to be a check and balance on themselves. But with the president, particularly this president, who may do things that are far too wide and not intended under the law, it is the responsibility of the courts, and they would be derelict in their duties not to stand up and say it's not the courts that are making Trump seem like he's racist, it's Trump's statements that make him seem racist, and that this policy also seems racist. It's the court's duty to step in at this point.
Well, I would be derelicting my duties if we did not discuss a big issue that's going on with the courts today, because I've refused to cover this until I actually had an actual story and facts to cover. There are protesters right now up on Capitol Hill, Ladawn, looking at the events that are going to happen tomorrow with the vote to close the closure on the vote for the judge, possibly making our Congress work on a Saturday. Do you think this is going to continue to rise in tensions on this Hill until we have a decision?
It is absolutely going to rise tensions. It's going to continue to be outrage, and rightfully so, right? We get to speak to our representatives to tell them the country we want. And listen, I wasn't there in the room many years ago when Judge Kavanaugh and the professor was there. But here's what I do know. We do not want a Supreme Court justice under this type of shadow of doubt. And that's what people are protesting about. And I am so glad they are.
So let me ask you, Steve, what do the Republicans do if Judge Kavanaugh does not get confirmed? What happens? How do they react?
Well, first of all, I think he will be confirmed. I think the president has a backup plan, and he'll bring it to the floor in time before the midterms or before the new Congress takes over. And it'll be a woman probably, but it wouldn't matter because they have something in their back pocket about any Trump nominee. Maybe this one said something to a librarian when she was in kindergarten. They have something ready for everyone on the list. You mark my words. And if Kavanaugh is confirmed, the Democrats will say every vote that he makes on the Supreme Court is an illegitimate decision. You watch.
Well, that's my question for you, Ladawn, and I've only got a minute left. I have to ask, what happens if Kavanaugh does get confirmed? How do the Democrats react?
It's not really much they can do once he is confirmed, but it would be a very sad day in America that the Republicans couldn't find any other candidate that was not under the suspicion like Judge Kavanaugh.
Well, this weekend we'll definitely tell, but I think we can always say, thank goodness that they're actually going to work on a Saturday. Thanks for joining me tonight, guys.
That's right.
Thank you.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.